I remember doing an internship in the Supreme Court. When I was interning with Justice Kurian, and post our court hours, we'd come back to his office, which was in his residence. So every week there would be a minivan that would come and dump like over 50 new cases. So I was working with uh, Dice Law Associates under Advocate C.S. Dice, who's currently a judge in the Kerala High Court. So that was a great experience, but I also realized I didn't want to spend so much time in court. I tell people I'm one of those people who live to eat. So all of these internships that
Me too.
yeah.
You only value, and safety is part of it. Those are the values you only value when you don't have it.
Don't have it exactly.
When you have it, you don't even consider, you don't even acknowledge it.
Yes.
But it is so fascinating with blockchain and smart contracts that it's self-executing, and there is no gray. The problem becomes because of the gray and interpretation.
So what I'm trying to work on, both research on and actually build on, is how we can create systems where jurors are selected, wherein they are independent as they can be, and at least consciously unbiased.
With AI coming into motion, right? Forget about humans, we also need to manage the AI interaction.
Yeah. Put yourself out there and tell people, you know what, I would like to help you if you need some of my time. So if you want to set about 20 minutes in a week, even if it's as small as that, to just help people out, it'd be great. Just give back. Give back to the community and the people.
वेलकम टू डिजिटल दुनिया पॉडकास्ट। दोस्तों, आज हम लेकर आए हैं एक और मज़ेदार टॉपिक और एक बहुत मज़ेदार शख्सियत। तो आज हमारे साथ है स्नेहा। क्या करती है ये जानना बहुत ही इंटरेस्टिंग रहेगा, लेकिन एक चीज़ कंफर्म है कि ये धमाल करती है। तो आइए बात करते हैं स्नेहा से। वेलकम टू द शो स्नेहा।
Thank you so much for having me.
तो स्नेहा एक बिल्डर है, एक रिसर्चर है, एक लॉयर है, जस्टिस एंड टेक के साथ, राइट? सो दिस इज गोइंग टू बी माउथफुल, सो लेट्स आस्क स्नेहा herself, what does justice and tech mean?
Hi, thank you so much for having me today. I'm very excited to talk about justice in tech and the work that I do. So let's first start by understanding the intersection of justice and tech. So justice, um, actually, to me, is a very subjective term because everybody has their own definition of justice, right? But from what I understand, justice actually means one's opportunity to actually be heard, right? The fact that someone's received a fair opportunity to be heard, irrespective of whatever the final consequence of that has been. Later, I will give you an example of some real life cases that led to my deeper understanding of what justice is. But essentially, justice means what I just said it did. And what I try to do is make sure that people have better access to justice. Even though our states, our legal systems are built in such a way that we as its citizens should have access to justice, it's not so easy. Sometimes it's the cost, sometimes it's the time, sometimes it's the technicalities. And to tackle that and to make justice more accessible, a lot of us try to find many solutions. And the solution that I've been working towards involves tech as a facilitator. So when I say I'm working in justice and tech, I'm talking about researching and building tools where we use tech as a facilitator to make justice accessible.
वाह, दैट इज सो इंटरेस्टिंग। दोस्तों, स्नेहा जो कर रही है वो बहुत ही यूनिक है और बहुत ही फ्रंटियर पर है। व्हाट शी कैन डू एंड व्हाट शी विल बी एबल टू डू विल सी इन टाइम, but the idea itself, the thought itself is so unique and so important because it plays in our day-to-day life for so many people. So very proud of you, Sneha. Kudos to the work you're doing.
Thank you so much.
So, Sneha, as such, we don't have any format. The conversation is free flowing, but we start generally with your childhood, where you grew up, the
Yeah.
school that you went to, and the uni you went to. So, if you
Yes.
like to tell us about yourself.
So, great. I think this would be the first time I'm talking about my childhood in this setting. So, I've spent more than three-fourths of my life in Kochi, where I was born, and I did my schooling. I did my schooling in Bhavans Elmakra here in Kochi. While I was in school, I realized I wanted to be a lawyer. At that point of time, I was very fascinated by human rights law, and I thought I'd be a human rights lawyer. Post my schooling, I took a year off to prep for my entrance exam so I could make it into a national law school. And the national law school I got assigned actually ended up being in Kochi. So I did my bachelor's in Kochi as well, which actually exposed me to a lot of things in my own city, which I wasn't really familiar with. So even though I went into law school thinking I wanted to do human rights law, the subject per se didn't excite me, although the practical side of things was actually quite interesting and the impact it was making was nice, but the subject per se didn't excite me. So I dabbled
So,
in
hold
different
on. Sorry to interject. Hold on to that thought. So,
things.
I just want to understand that nuance a little bit more. So, the topic didn't excite you, but the implications and the result it generated, it excited you. Is that right? Is that
Yeah,
what you're saying?
the implication, more than excitement, the implication was meaningful, and it is for me. It's important to do meaningful work, but
Hmm.
the subject per se didn't particularly excite me.
So, as in theory, the studying the examination part of it, that's not
Yeah,
what draw you so in, but the implication, the impact you are able to create or potentially
eventually.
have with the community, that is much more satisfying.
Yes, exactly. Yes. So, yes. So, my experience in organizations that were core human rights organizations wasn't as exciting, primarily because like I said, the subject or the practical implementation of that aspect didn't really excite me. So, I explored other options. Litigation was one. I loved public speaking, so litigation seemed exciting. But I remember doing an internship in the Supreme Court. When I was interning with Justice Kurian, and post our court hours, we'd come back to his office, which was in his residence. So every week there would be a minivan that would come and dump like over 50 new cases for the judge to actually read and look into cases that had to be or like could be potentially admitted, right? And that's when it all made sense. We had way too many cases. I mean, it was in theory, we knew there were way a lot more cases than our judicial system could handle. But then physically seeing how difficult it was, actually, I think was one of those moments where I realized, okay, maybe litigation's not the space to be for me. Parallelly, I started exploring alternate dispute resolution. So how you can resolve disputes outside of court. That seemed like a great alternative to litigation. I happened to do an internship here in Kochi with KL Varghese Associates, which is a great arbitration firm here. And I got introduced to this subject, the practical aspects of it, and I was looking at arbitration specifically. So alternate dispute resolution is of different forms. So you may have heard of mediation and conciliation. So arbitration is one form, and arbitration involved a lot of contract law, and I absolutely love the subject. And I thought, okay, maybe arbitration was the way to go. There
Hmm.
wasn't much impact there, but then the subject was amazing. The people that I was meeting in the space was amazing. So I decided I would take that route. And post college, I took, so while in college, there's this concept of moot court competition
Hmm.
where you're given mock cases to, go work on, argue. And I happen to be part of two moot court competitions in the arbitration space. One was in Odisha, which was a maritime law case, which was extremely exciting. And it was international law. And I realized, okay, I wanted to be in the international space. The second competition I actually got to participate in Australia, which was greater international exposure. So I realized that combination of contract law, international law, out of court settlement, it was a much more kinder way, a calmer way of resolving disputes. People were in control. There, it was supposed to be cost effective. It was definitely time efficient. So all of these things excited me. So right after college, I decided I want to do arbitration. But getting into the international arbitration space is actually quite difficult. So
They are
while
going to hold you there.
yes,
You are giving us so many
okay,
nice nuggets, but I want to make sure that we are able to comprehend and
yes,
reconfirm the learnings, right?
yes, yes,
So, just recapping what you said. So, obviously, you went to school in Kochi, you went to a uni in Kochi, then you did your practice, basically intern as well in Kochi, right? So
Um, mm,
that's
yeah,
sorry.
so yeah, the internship was, we had about 10 internships. So some of it in Kochi, some in, there was one in Delhi, Bombay, some in Bangalore. Yes.
Mm. So, and to that point, exactly what I wanted to try and pull out from those conversation is uh, two parts to it. One, as you mentioned that the studies or the process aspect was not appealing, but the impact was very meaningful and touching to you. So,
Yeah.
first question in regards to that, what was it, if you can recall or if you know, that drew you towards that? Do you know, or was it something on a subconscious level?
Drew me towards arbitration, is it, or the work that I'm doing right now?
No, the justice part, the
Ah,
implication part.
okay. So, oh, why I was driven to impactful work, is it?
Yeah, so what drew you to that aspect? Because say for example, I was drawn, I didn't plan to do what we are doing, right?
Yes.
It happened, the drive, it's, you realize that there is a pull in something so strong that
Yeah.
you just end up drawing yourself in that direction. So I like to believe that the justice part, as you mentioned,
Yeah.
was something similar to you.
Yes, I guess. Honestly, I haven't been able to deeply explore why I have been pulled to it, but giving people, and like for me independently and for those around me, to actually have an opportunity to do the things that they want to do has just been something very personal. And if I can contribute to that, that's just great. And justice is, I guess, one version of that.
Yeah, and as I mentioned, right, sometimes we don't know the answers, we
Yeah.
just know what we want to do, which is okay. But sometimes I thought, in case if you had pondered or you knew why you wanted to do what you wanted to do, so just
Yeah.
wanted to clarify. So
Yeah.
that's nice. The
Yeah.
second aspect to that is, so your exposure, right? So
Yes.
which year, just to get some timelines, so when
Yes.
did you graduate and started doing your interns, and
Yes.
where, how many places, did
Yeah.
you get to travel?
So in 2013, I joined NUALS, the law school. So it's a national law school here in Kochi. 2013, I did my first internship in Kochi. It was with a criminal lawyer. I realized that was not where I wanted to be, although criminal law was quite exciting.
Lucrative.
Yes, lucrative and extremely exciting.
Yes.
Um, the second internship was in Delhi with an organization called Greenpeace, uh, which was which was quite nice. Um, I was working in the fundraising team. Uh, Other than the impact aspect, we didn't really work so much on the impact aspect. We were all quite young. We were just focusing on generating funds. But I think it is a great way to pick up um, selling skills, like pitching skills. Uh, Internship number three, I think, was back in Kochi. I don't really remember where that was. Internship number four was in Bangalore in a law firm, which was okay. So there were a few internships here and there. Then I did an internship in Bombay, I think in year four,
Mm.
which was with a corporate criminal lawyer. Exciting, but not the work that I wanted to continue. And then somewhere in between, I interned in the Supreme Court as well, which was also quite nice. Got to witness a lot of amazing landmark cases. That's also one of those instances where I realized litigation was not my cup of tea.
Mm.
But it was still exciting. Going to court, arguing, all of that was exciting. So I did take a year in 2018, immediately after I graduated, to just practice in court. So it was a combination of litigation and also alternate dispute resolution. So I was working with uh, Dice Law Associates under Advocate C.S. Dice, who's currently a judge in the Kerala High Court. So that was a great experience, but I also realized I didn't want to spend so much time in court because there were a lot of amazing lawyers in court, and I didn't feel like I was going to make much of a difference. And I think it's best to use our skills in areas where you can actually make a unique contribution and a difference. While the internships were happening, I did my first moot court competition in Odisha in 2016,
Mm.
and the second competition in Australia, which was in 2017 or 2018.
So did you visit Australia?
Yes, I did. Yes,
Where did you come?
I was in Brisbane, University of Queensland.
Okay.
Yes,
Did you happen to visit Melbourne?
I did. I was there for a week. It
Wow.
was, yeah.
Uh,
Yes.
Sorry, go ahead. I don't want to take away your
Oh,
thunder.
no, I was just saying it was one of my best trips.
You make sure you have to come again, and I'll show you around in a different way.
Okay. Yes.
And I'm sure you will get to see. This generally happens, right? I may go to Kochi as a tourist, and I can do 5 things, and then come back and, oh, I had a lot of fun. But
Yes.
the moment you throw in a local player in mix, and suddenly the experience goes
Yeah.
10x up.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
Mm.
Oh, yeah. I might just take you up on that offer.
Yeah, no, you have to. What I'm going to do is, as we wrap up this introduction, your childhood segment, I want to know one thing about all these different places. Obviously, Kochi is your place. You're born and brought up. So, one question for Kochi is, how has Kochi shaped you as a person? But more importantly, all the different places that you did during your internship, right?
Yes.
How did that play a part in grooming you, developing you?
Okay. So these are questions I've never really thought about. So I'll take some time to actually think about it. But I think Kochi's just been so ingrained in me. I've never really thought of how it has shaped me. Kochi definitely. So I think first thing about Kochi is my family is here. I've lived very close to my uncles, aunts, cousins, grandparents. So that sense of family, importance like of close people in your life has definitely shaped me. So thing about interacting with your family constantly is there's always a lot of giving, right? So there's especially as a child growing up, you're just receiving, and growing up with a family who cares for you, who's given so much for you, I think shapes you into somebody who wants to give back and do good, not just for the family, but just generally, right? So
Mm.
Kochi, when I think about Kochi, it's mostly family and friends, close friends like family. It's a very culturally diverse place. Uh, as far as religion is concerned, you have people from different religions living harmoniously. So there's high tolerance. It is as far as even when you look at like pre-independence periods, we've had colonies from different areas. So there's been a lot of cultural influence, whether it's been food, art, architecture. So it's very culturally, artistically diverse. So you learn to see beauty in everything. I don't know if it's a Kochi thing, but I think one reason I'm a very passionate person is because of this particular influence. It makes you creative. So some people associate creativity to just painting, cooking, etc. Right? But this creativity has been able to spill over to technical things like creating a unique contract or coming up with a loophole in coming up with an interesting way to cover a loophole in a contract, or building tools like the ones that we are building using blockchain and AI and law. So yeah, it has helped me become a passionate person. I'd like to say creative as well.
Sneha, I wanted to wrap up, but you've said something very interesting. So we need to open that because that's so fascinating. But before we do that, uh, do you have any conscious awareness of any other place, be it Delhi, Bombay, um, had an impact on you while you were doing your internship?
Um, Conscious awareness. So I tell people I'm one of those people who live to eat. So all of these internships that
Me too.
yeah. So,
Again, and I connected. She's like, me too, me too. I said, okay, fine. That's perfect.
yeah. So you get it, right? So
Yeah,
when I think about cities, I automatically think about food.
food.
So food, yeah. So I spend a lot of time in Bangalore. Uh, Great diverse food options. Delhi, when I think about Delhi, I think about the amazing food in the Supreme Court canteen. Bombay, I think about the street food. I love how vibrant and safe Bombay feels. I think safety is such an important factor when it comes to like geographical locations. It's so we don't really talk about it enough because
It's a saying. I've learned this from my mother. So she would always say that safety, justice, the deeper things I picked up from her, but unfortunately, very late in life. I wish I was wiser earlier to pick those things from her. But she would always say those kind of things. You only value, and safety is part of it. Those are the values you only value when you don't have it.
don't have it
When you
exactly.
have it, you don't even consider, you don't even acknowledge it.
Yes, yes. And earlier we were talking about just gender gap in tech, right? And also
Mm.
like the greater problems with lack of opportunities for different genders. I feel like one reason why certain gender is able to advance more than the others is because of the issues like safety, which is occupying space in your head. So you can't really explore things that other people are exploring. So things like safety, comfort are all things that you take for granted by virtue of like gender or sometimes your background. So if we can make this available by default, people are just going to be happier, more productive. A lot of this gap is going to be significantly diminished. So safety has always been a very important factor for me, especially when I'm traveling. Yeah.
So now going back to the Kochi experience, when you mention about creativity art, and I can't remember which book was it or where did I read it. I generally quote the references, but this time I'm going to go solo. It basically meant that creativity is an art is doing anything in your most unique and personal way, right? It
Mm.
could be gardening, it could be cooking, it could be writing a document, it could be a
Yes.
compliance document, it could be a
Yes.
regulation, it could be law,
Yes.
anything, because you can bring creativity and art to
Yes.
anything, or
Yes.
anything you can do can be creative as long as you are immersed and completely devoted to what you're doing.
Yeah, I completely agree. And this is why I think some people, when they say they are supposedly stuck in conventional 9 to 5 jobs, it's because you don't indulge in it. You're not passionate about the work that you do. You're not thinking of creative ways to do it. I mean, even the most boring things, right, can actually be quite interesting if you were to really think about it creatively, like just drawing a conventional contract for that matter.
It seems like a philosophical week. I had an amazing recording yesterday with one of the India leads of a project, and we actually ended up talking for half of the podcast on, like, we were it's fun because we are having philosophical talk, and it's
Yes.
an abstract thing, but it's not abstract because it connects with how we think, how we behave, and how we do things, right?
Mm.
So it's not random. And I got we had a really stimulating conversation, and guess what, next day, 2 days in a row, so this is my lucky week, we are
Yeah.
having this, because I think it's more meaningful. What you said, 9 to 5, anything. I like, there are many different scenarios and possibilities. I've been in corporate world for a fair few years to
Yeah.
understand that. So there are many triggers and levers that are pulling in life, and we are meant to be doing, juggling so many things at the same time as we progress in life, and it becomes very challenging and difficult to hold on to doing things, but sometimes you have to do for survival, right? And I, from my personal experience, feel that everyone has got that urge and sense of being creative or meaningful in whatever they are doing.
Yes.
Sometimes it's a leap that some people are able to take, whether it's a good fortune, whether it's the circumstance, whether people around them, or sometimes, unfortunately, some people are not able to take that. But
Yes.
that does not, I feel, very strongly believe that that does not mean that they don't have the same urge. It's just that many different things are at play.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, on such a beautiful note of creativity and art, let's move into Web3. I want to know, what was your first exposure of Web3? How did you came to know about Web3, and what drew you in?
Okay, all right. So right after I graduated, I'd taken a mini break. So the moot court competition in Australia, the physical part of it happened to be after graduation. So after I
Mm.
came back, I decided to write a paper on arbitration, and I was just exploring the subject there, and I came across a very interesting article about something Vitalik Buterin had talked about, and it was the concept of smart contracts, and he was talking about vending machines, which was
Which year was that? Sorry, just to get a timeline.
I think it was 2018.
Okay.
Yeah, around 2018. So yeah, so then I was exploring arbitration, and I was trying to write a paper on how arbitration is a great way to take a lot of these disputes outside of court to make things a lot more effective. And here I
Mm.
was reading about automatically executable contracts, which meant that contracts could be enforced and there would be no disputes to begin with. So you don't even have to go into arbitration, right? And that was very exciting for me because yeah, it was absolutely new concept. I
It
thought
is. It is. Like, yeah, I'm not in law. Like, law is. I've not used law. I've not studied law. I don't luckily, touch wood, not
yeah,
had to use or defend myself for anything. But it is so fascinating with blockchain and smart contracts that it's self-executing, and there is no gray. The problem becomes because of the gray and interpretation.
yeah, 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 exactly. And yeah, it was just exciting. And then I started reading more about smart contracts, realized it was not limited to just blockchains. I discovered this person called Nick Szabo, who was a polymath who wrote about law and tech. So that was quite exciting. But then eventually, while I was writing or like researching, while I was on the researching space, I ended up getting a job and started working in the High Court. So I forgot about that bit for a while. I was back in the conventional game. A year
Life
in,
happens.
life happened exactly. And then I decided to do my master's because I wanted to go back into international arbitration. So I went to Singapore. In Singapore, I was exposed to international arbitration. So Singapore has the best center when it comes to arbitration for Asia Pacific disputes. And it was a great experience, but there I realized arbitration or institutional arbitration, which basically means arbitrations administered by like a proper institution, is actually quite expensive and not everyone can afford it. So here I was thinking alternative dispute resolution was a great way to make justice accessible, but it's actually quite expensive. And I was stuck there for some time, happened to pick up an elective where I had to write a paper. And it was a very complicated elective. The subject was very complicated, and I was trying to find a way to write a paper that wasn't directly linked to the elective. And I thought, hey, why not write about blockchain? It's a great way to uh, go back to back to it and a great way to avoid my core elective topic. And once I started exploring at that point, there were barely a handful of papers on blockchain and dispute resolution, blockchain and law. Uh, there were there were barely any like live projects, maybe a handful if there were any. And
Even now, Sneha, sorry to interject you, but
yes,
even now,
yeah,
uh, I just get blown away with what you've just mentioned, right? And from our initial conversation last week as well, because I feel very fascinated because it's such a, like, you know, we in Web3 we keep on talking about users, an app which has got real world usage,
yes.
and I'm like, you don't need to find users. Users will come to you if you, because this is such a basic part of life, and I can't wait to know more about what you're doing with the project you are doing. But
Yes.
sorry, go ahead. I was not able to contain my excitement.
No, please, that's okay. So yeah, so I ended up writing a paper. It was a mini paper in the beginning. It was quite interesting. Then I
Hmm.
converted into a major paper. And then COVID happened. So I came back from Singapore and there was a hiring freeze, which meant that I had to wait before I could start applying. And even if I was applying, the chances were very low. So I thought, okay, maybe I'll just dabble in the blockchain space for a little bit before I go back to life, as you said it. So I ended up taking a class on blockchain. I think it was by the Linux Foundation. It was mostly on Hyperledger, but I got a grasp of the concepts. I started writing about it. I theorized a dispute resolution model which used blockchain. It was more of a conflict prevention and conflict resolution model. And at that point, I thought it's great to write about it, but there's no way I would be able to do something because I'm not a technologist and I don't know anybody from that circle because it's so isolated from law. And even though Singapore had a great blockchain community, our law campus was in a completely different location. So I'd never really been exposed to anybody. But somehow, at some point, I happened to participate in a ETH Online hackathon. And from there, I started realizing, okay, this is a great and supportive community. You can actually participate even if you have zero technical knowledge or zero coding knowledge. And the community was very warm. And what I really like about the Web3 community is they're very welcoming. They want you to learn. They're very giving. They give without thinking about what they could get back. And that was great. So when I joined, it was more about, there was a lot of taking. There was a lot of taking in, there was a lot of taking from people as well. By being part of these communities, I joined an amazing community called Women Who Code. They had a blockchain wing. Uh,
Was it the Phoenix Guild?
no, this one's called Women Who Code. It
Okay.
was a US based organization.
Gyan was part of it as well, if I'm not
Gyan,
wrong.
I think
Yeah.
Gyan led the first. So
Yes.
each year they have a different head for each
Mm,
vertical, and I think led the first blockchain wing.
mm,
But when I joined, Gyan wasn't active, so I didn't meet
mm,
Gyan there. I met her much later. So yeah, I joined Women Who Code, learned a lot. Phoenix wasn't hadn't Phoenix didn't exist just yet. And then eventually at some point I decided I wanted to build something by myself. And it had to be in the dispute resolution space. And a lot of people in my circle, some of my best friends, my sister, my grandmom, they were all very involved in art. And
mm.
somehow I started exploring NFTs. And I was writing a contract for my friend for one of the decentralized NFT marketplaces. And I realized there was an institutional arbitration clause. And I was shocked. Like, why would you put artists in this space through an institutional arbitration, and if there's a dispute? And then I decided, okay, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to build a decentralized dispute resolution application for artists because maybe they
Hold
rely.
on, hold on. I this is again, life happens, as I keep on
Yeah.
saying.
Yes.
This is such a powerful thought, right? What you just said, and what I can grasp, because I've been in Web3 for a good number of years. I understand quite a bit, but this is, I mean, it's an aha moment for me. I can't imagine how you would have felt when you
Absolutely.
discovered that gap, and there is
Yes.
a way to fill that gap.
Yes.
So go, come on, I can't wait. I want to hear more.
Yeah. So I think first I realized it when I was still in Singapore. And then at that time, I thought it wasn't feasible for me to build something. And then
So
eventually
that was 2020 or 2021
it was
NFT.
either 2019 or 2020. It was just
Okay,
beginning of it was not the NFT wave yet.
okay.
There were,
Uh,
I think there were just two platforms. It was post CryptoKitties, just two platforms. Uh,
Reliable and OpenSea, I
Terrible,
guess.
yes, yes. And I think it was it was one of the contracts that I read.
Mm.
Uh, I didn't think too much into it because I didn't think I could build it. So I came back, I'd done all of these hackathons, I'd worked with all of these developers, and I realized, okay, maybe I can do something by myself. That's when I decided to build. And I checked out contracts of all of these marketplaces, and they all had arbitration clauses. So I thought, okay, so this is something that I can do. I have the legal knowledge. I worked in the arbitration space, but I didn't really have a developer to work with. So I started cold mailing people, found them like people who I would see on Discord channels. And then there was this uh, it was during this process I'd also discovered Women Who Code, because there
Mm.
was a talk by women leaders of Algorand at Women Who Code, which was also very exciting. I learned how supportive the women and non-binary community in the blockchain and tech space was. So at Women Who Code, there was a lead in the data science track, and I just decided to. I think I messaged all the leads of the various tracks, and the lead from the data science track replied, and she said, "You know what? At this stage in my life, I am trying to explore something new. So maybe, and I want to learn about blockchain." She worked in AI, and she said, "I think I want to learn about blockchain." And then that was the beginning. We started building resolutio. She had zero blockchain knowledge, and she learned from scratch.
Imagine a law graduate recently started working out, a AI researcher
Yes.
with zero blockchain background
Yeah.
coming together, building something on blockchain.
Yes.
More importantly, like, this is more so for our listeners, right? To give, because your normal pitch, I have realized
Yes.
in a short while that
Yes.
you downplay, you are softer, gentler, but it is such a powerful thing what you're building, right? And it has got implications which could be very far reaching, and potentially, like, there is a possibility that it might have a huge impact on going forward, like, next 5, 10, 15, 20 years. It could be such a powerful tool, so it's very important to give some energy, make sure our audience understand
Yes.
how vital and valuable it is, because if they are listening and if they get to know about this on our podcast through you, they need to remember it is you who they heard for the first time from.
Thank you. And I'd also like to say, for a lot of people who think they can't do things, either because they're not confident, or maybe because they don't have the skill sets for it, it shouldn't really stop you. If you don't have the skill set for it, if you can learn, if you can't learn, reach out to people. Someone will eventually, someone with the same principles, someone with the right skill set wo- will come your way, and it'll just work out. So never give up. Yeah.
So, are you a Shah Rukh Khan fan by any chance? Do you watch Hindi movies?
Yeah, I do. I do. I enjoy his movies. Yes.
Yeah. So this is, it's a cringe moment in my life, and unfortunately that cringe moment does not let go. They keep coming back, and it's one of the share which is, like, patronized by him in his movie Om Shanti Ho, right? uh, to add to what you just said, right? अगर तुम किसी चीज को शिद्दत से चाहते हो तो पूरी
Yes.
कायनात लग जाती है
Mm.
to take you to that point, and it is so true. The challenge is, it's never the confidence, it's never the resources, it's never the education, it's your drive
Yeah.
that lets you down. So all those are uh, reasons, but actually it is like, it's your drive. If you are driven enough, you'll find a way.
Yes. Exactly. Yes. I truly believe in it. Yeah. Yeah. So, okay. So we're right. So we were building resolutio. Yeah.
Sorry for throwing you off.
Oh, no, no. That's okay.
तो दोस्तों ये सेगमेंट हम ख़त्म करते हैं और चलते हैं अगले सेगमेंट की ओर, जहाँ पर हम कम्प्लीटली रेजोल्यूश्योर के बारे में बात करेंगे, द प्रोजेक्ट दैट स्नेहा इज़ बिल्डिंग. आई am super excited. Sneha, I'm warning you beforehand. I'm going to keep on nagging you, asking you what's happening because I'm
Yes.
so fascinated with what you're building. So,
Yes.
disclaimer out in public that I'm going to bother you time and again just to know what you're doing.
Yeah, yeah. I'm always excited to talk about the projects. So
Sure.
yes, so Resolutio was okay. It was something that I wanted to build. So this was, I think, a couple of months or if not a year after I did my master. So it was also important to think about serious alternatives to this. Um, Actually, Resolutio, I would say, was supposed to be a complementary aspect of what I wanted to do, which was at that stage pursue my PhD in the arbitration and blockchain space. So while we were building Resolutio, I was also preparing all my PhD applications, reaching out to people. In fact, I'd already written down my proposal. I started speaking to professors, and uh, in the meantime, we started like building, applying for hackathons. First hackathon, or maybe first few, didn't go so well, but that was okay because we didn't really have the necessary
The
knowledge.
skills.
Yes.
Yeah. Mm. And so I didn't expect it would be an easy road, but you started off, and again, when you talk about hackathon, also for youngsters, right? I we keep on getting a common message saying that you should participate in hackathons.
Yes.
So, from your, when was the first time you participated in a hackathon with your project, and how was that experience?
So I was participating in hackathons in general. The first time we participated with Resolutio was in 2021, I think.
ETH
Um,
Bangalore.
Sorry, no, that
E-
was this was Encode Algorand hackathon. So it
okay.
was a completely different version of what we were building. And then we made the first version of the dispute resolution model for for this hackathon called Filecoin, Encode Filecoin hackathon. And there we won a prize and we won a bounty, and that was great. And that was when we had enough bounty to hire a blockchain developer. So the community actually helped us a lot in amplifying our voice. There was a developer relations person slash influencer who gave us her, I think it was called Palette at the time. She allowed us to use her page for free to advertise a position for a developer. So people were generally nice. We hired up, it was our first hire, a blockchain developer who is now our co-founder at Resolutio. So we started building then. We were still a little confused because none of us knew how to really build a startup. And our aim was to just build a good platform that would, do what we want, that would actually make the impact that we wanted it to make. So it was happening, like the building was happening parallelly. From my end, I decided, okay, I can't build. So what's the next best thing I can do? I can start researching, I can start talking about it. So I started taking workshops for artists, explaining what copyright is, what are the consequences of lack of copyright protection, how can you protect it with blockchain or like decentralized storage. So while the building was happening, I did this. So interesting thing about our team is we were all working part-time at that time because we
Mhm.
couldn't really afford to go in full-fledged. And because we had the bounty, I decided to pause my PhD plans and dive deeper into the blockchain space. So I would spend early mornings just learning different technologies. And as someone not from that space, it would take quite a bit of time. So, as we were building Resolutio, doing the workshops, I was participating in hackathons. In 2022, last year at ETH Bangalore, so we'd have like random teams. So last year at ETH Bangalore, I signed up with a few kids from a university, an engineering college in Kerala, and we decided to build something in the justice space. So resolutio is something that it's my passion project, a full-fledged platform. But personally, I've always wanted to work on making justice accessible on a larger scale. So I've been researching and writing about that, got something published, eventually got it recognized by an organization, WIPO, which is a sister concern of UN, where I got an opportunity to speak. So while all of this was happening, I
Did
thought,
you say, you just slide it in? Did you say you got an opportunity to speak at UN?
UN sister organization WIPO, which handles IP, intellectual property. So
Yeah, so I'm just making sure that it goes so undertone. I wanted to highlight it. So can
yes.
you repeat again? Where did you speak and what did you speak about?
So, WIPO, World Intellectual Property Organization, is the organization which works on protecting IP, so patents, copyrights, etc. So every year, biannually, they conduct this virtual program called Conversations on IP and AI, IP and Emerging Tech. So this one year, they had a session on I think it was IP and IP disputes in emerging tech, something along those lines. So I was able to moderate that session and talk on the work that we were doing. Yes. Thank you.
Kudos. Very proud of you.
Yeah.
स्नेहा, तो अब आपने जैसे जैसे मैंने पहले कहा था इंट्रो में, you're doing many things, but one thing is for sure कि आप धमाल मचा रहे हो.
Yeah.
So
Thank
I am so glad because I come from a financial background. I understand tech, similar to you. Need to do a lot of research, a lot of reading to get the technical aspect right.
you.
But over the years, what I've seen is you get a lot of funding for some not so unique idea.
Yeah.
But what you are doing is very unique. But more importantly, it has got real world usages, right?
Mhm.
So I want you to, if I can be of any assistant at any
Yes.
point of time, I don't know what I can do. But
Yes.
if you figure out that if I can be of any help in whatever you're doing, whether it's with justice or reassure,
Yeah.
uh, please do not hesitate. I'm
Yes.
always there,
Yes.
rooting for you, cheering for you, and willingly contributing if at all I can.
Yes. I really appreciate that. Thank you.
Mm.
Yeah, we're still honestly just finding our way. So, yeah, this was 2 years back when this happened. We were building Resolutio, independently doing these talks, workshops. Around 2022, 2023, I reached a space where I could give back. So at that point, so I started volunteering for Women Who Code. Phoenix Guild had materialized, so I took up the chapter lead role here in Kerala. And then last year, IPFS camp happened in Brussels. I was able to lead a track called Decentralized Justice. So, um, oh wait, I think I'm cutting timelines. Let me come back to 2023, where we did a
Mm.
hackathon project with my friends, great friends now, students from this university. They were just exploring. I was just exploring, and then we thought, okay, let's do something in justice, but like, let's see. Uh, let's build something that can make a huge impact. So we were actually exploring the concept of network states.
Mm.
So great concept, but in theory, but practically it's difficult to implement, right? And the missing link there was there was great discussions about the legislative executive aspect of it, but the justice aspect of it was actually missing. So we thought, oh, why don't we build justice protocol which would provide the justice aspect of the network state, and we'll build it in such a way that this would include tools which can impart legal functions, which can be customized and plugged into network states, but also nation states and also private organizations. So, like an evidence tool or like a dispute resolution tool, which can be customized and, solve a lot of the problems that.
This is me as a user, right? So I'm
Yes,
I'm I'm confused because I've read about Balaji's network state, his book, his concept. I
yes,
understand in theory what he's talking about.
yeah,
Uh, the concept of nation state is probably 150 years old, right?
Yeah.
So which is knowingly unknowingly we all consume
Yeah.
and participate in what we
Yes.
know about current law and justice.
Yes.
And then there is a corporate world or a corporate law which is again part of nation state, which has been established over same last
Yeah.
150 years.
Yeah.
So what my confusion lies is when you say that you
Mm.
can plug in into network state and nation state and corporate world, so this part does not make sense. Can you help me understand how that happens?
Yeah. Some of these needs of us as humans remain the same wherever we go. So conflict exists wherever we
Hmm,
go.
hmm,
Uh, Balaji talks about how in a network state, because everyone is the same, there isn't
hmm.
really a need for conflict resolution explicitly because people are the same. So there isn't really conflict. But once you form your network state, there would be other components that
New kind of conflicts.
conflict. Yeah, new kind of
Yeah,
conflict
yeah.
comes up. So you need a model to help resolve that conflict, right? So in a
Hmm,
nation state, you have the legal system, you have courts, judges. What you
hmm,
have in a nation network state, right? So
hmm.
that's how we built this crowdsourced dispute resolution mechanism, which is actually heavily influenced by the crowdsourced online dispute resolution mechanism, which Colin Rule had built for eBay, one of the earliest, if not the earliest, online dispute resolution mechanisms. So, what he did is, so this is where my definition of justice actually comes from that I mentioned earlier. So, what he did is to resolve e commerce disputes coming out of the website, design
Hmm.
a system where people, not lawyers, not jurors, just like people would actually resolve these basic disputes. I think because this was a very unconventional approach, not everyone was for it. But he came out with a paper, and the stats actually showed that the people who participated in this, irrespective of whether they won or lost, were more likely to come back to eBay and use the services as opposed to people who didn't participate, which essentially made it gave us the understanding that it's not where the people don't necessarily want to win. They just want to be given a fair opportunity to be heard.
They just want to be heard.
Yeah. So as long as
Hmm,
you've judged honestly,
hmm.
independently, and if you're not biased, if they're convinced that you've done it fairly, then that's all that matters. People will come back and indulge, right? And you don't
So
necessarily.
what was that process? Sorry, I'm just curious now. My curiosity is flowing. So what was that eBay process? Can you throw some light on it?
It was
So how
just
does that
so
process work?
I haven't used their platform, but from what I understand, a generic, so to break down an online dispute resolution platform into something very simple, you would have, like, instead of going to a physical court, you just do it online. Or if you've used Amazon customer services, right? There it's probably a customer care executive here, but just say there are two parties. There would be a juror who would listen to both the sides. You would make your arguments. You would probably have evidence such as receipts or like delivery receipts, things like that. And then the juror,
Communication
yeah, things like that.
history.
Yeah.
Hmm.
After hearing both the sides, they make the verdict. They say, okay, maybe you should give back the money that this person sent you because you sent a wrong product.
Well, I think, like, Sneha, I just, I feel like, again, very strongly that I enjoy talking to you. And I just realized that, we are running past time. But
Okay.
I would love to, like, just have interaction because I think, like, I get to learn a lot from you. Maybe we can talk on abstract things,
Yes.
which may not be use of anyone, but it's fun. So coming back to the podcast, as we wrap this show, Sneha, on the two sides, Resolutio and the Justice project that you've been working on, if
Yes.
you can do a quick rundown before my last and final question, which I want to ask you.
Yeah.
Uh, Tell us, what do you see for both the projects in next 6 to 12 months?
Okay, so with Resolutio, what we're saying is artists and creators having greater control over their work and over their interactions with people. So, copyright protection, access to the law, tools which can actually protect their work legally without them having to spend too much time understanding the law or having to pay for lawyers, which a lot of people can't do. So that's what we're doing in three steps. One is automated copyright protection, generated licenses and contracts, and dispute resolution, as we've been discussing all this while. So that's my plan with resolutio. As far as justice protocol is concerned, so we just want to make justice accessible for everyone. So we're building customizable tools which people can use. Whether it be organizations or nation states. Right now, we've just built out a very basic dispute resolution tool. And we've just been running demos at all of these conferences, and it's just been very exciting. Now we're just speaking to a university to get them to use this for a moot court competition, which is where my exposure to all of this started. So with Justice Protocol, we see people actually using these dispute resolution or evidence tools to participate in making justice accessible, right? I mean, who wouldn't feel bad about something like this? And be actually getting incentivized for their participation. So make money and contribute to justice.
Wow, that is so fascinating. So, as we wrap up, I'm going to ask you one last question, which is going to be very important for all the youngsters and especially young women watching you. So, what are the three things that you think a young graduate or youngster who is wanting to join Web3 or participate in Web3, they need to know, have, or be able to do?
Okay. One is be open to learning basics, irrespective of which industry or background you come from, whether you're a lawyer, a finance person, or somebody from the medical background. Don't stop yourself from exploring tech just because you're from another or from another area. Same with technologies. Even if you're an engineer who is interested in exploring legal tech tools, learn the law. I mean, not as a law student would, but learn the basics. So A would be learn, try to incorporate it in your routine to spend some time to just learn, maybe write or make videos or like express it in some way because the learning gets it it's more effective that
It's
way.
more embedding.
Yes. Number two would be just fearlessly reach out to people if you need help. There are people to help. Always. We tend to think that we might be asking too much or we might look stupid, but really just reach
Guilty,
out.
guilty, guilty, guilty. The buzzer will keep on going. Everything you say applies to me because I've been there. And I keep on going there, feeling those things again and again. So it's so important for youngsters or anyone, right?
Yes.
You're not alone. We all go through this even after doing it so many times.
Yeah. Yeah.
You
So
just have to do it.
yeah, just do it. And number three is to give back. It's great to take, but it's always great to give back. So, like you said, there might be people like you and me who felt it might not be nice to reach out to people. So maybe put yourself out there and tell people, you know what, I would like to help you if you need some of my time. So if you want to like set about 20 minutes in a week, even if it's as small as that, to just help people out, it'd be great. Just give back. Yeah, give back to the community and the people.
That's a wonderful note to end this amazing episode with you, Sneha. Thank you so very much. And based on what you say, the give back, right? So I think that a small act of kindness, generosity, uh, goes way far than anything else you can imagine. And it always comes back. And our purpose with Real Dunya as well has been that, like, if we can create value for someone, value will find its way to come back to us.
Yes.
So
Yes.
I'm a firm believer in it. So thank you once again, Sneha. And as we wrap up, I know I promised that was my last question, but this is selfishly. How was your experience with us at Digital Dunya? And if you can give us a shout out.
Oh, yeah, definitely. The experience was great. I would say, generally, the podcasts or talks I've done is just talking about my journey, my experience. This actually made me really think and introspect about the path that I took and the things that I've done, potentially helping me to do better myself. So, It was really nice, and I hope you find a lot more people to speak to, because it's not just about the exposure that they are getting or the exposure you're getting. I think this is a great way for the uh, guest to also reflect on what they're doing and to do better.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Sneha. I really appreciate all the kind words that you mentioned. And our goal is to take it to as many people, bring in as diverse voice as possible in every different way, be
Right.
it project, be it tech, be it even legal now, right? So this is our effort. At least I'm trying to do that. And if you feel that you know anyone that is a must that I should talk to or they should talk to me, feel free. I would want that from you more actively than passively,
Yeah.
because that's the only way. I don't have resources, I don't have access to,
Yeah.
because you work, you will have different connections, you will interact with different people. दोस्तों, मुझे उम्मीद है कि आपको ये एपिसोड इतना ही पसंद आया होगा जितनी मुझे मज़ा आई है स्नेहा के साथ बात करने में. What Sneha is building is something very unique. Not many people in the industry are thinking on those lines. Uh, मौका दस्तूर हमेशा यही कहता है कि जहाँ पर फाइनेंशियल रिवॉर्ड ज़्यादा होते हैं वहाँ पर तवज्जो ज़्यादा दी जाती है. So there are a lot of builders, there are a lot of amazing projects, but they are centric towards where the fundings are, unfortunately. So it is such a refreshing point to see someone building something so meaningful, something that could have so much of consequence if they are able to crack it. तो ये बहुत ही मज़ेदार एपिसोड रहा है मेरे लिए पर्सनली. आई गॉट टू लर्न अ लॉट एंड आई एम श्योर स्नेहा इज़ गोइंग टू पार्ट ऑफ डिजिटल दुनिया फैमिली. तो आर इंडस्ट्री इवॉल्व्स वेरी फास्ट. 6 महीने 5 साल के बराबर होते हैं. ऑल ऑफ यू कैन एक्सपेक्ट नेक्स्ट राउंड विद स्नेहा प्रीटी मच इन नेक्स्ट 6 to 12 months. तो हमें सुनने के लिए धन्यवाद. उम्मीद है आपको कुछ नया जानने को मिला होगा. अगली बार तक सवाल करते रहो, एक्सप्लोर करते रहो द डिजिटल दुनिया. नमस्कार.